Holy cow. I friggin' love that analogy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She uses her life skills to repair herself.
What others might deem stupid shit, you know matters. You know it's worth talking and thinking about, and so do we. We're sisters Tracie and Emily, collectively known as the Guy Girls. Every week, we take turns rewatching, researching, and reconsidering beloved media and sharing what we learn. Come overthink with us, and if you get value from the show, please consider supporting us. You can become a patron on Patreon or send us a one-time tip through Ko-fi. Both links are in the show notes. And thanks. I'm Tracie Guy Decker, and you're listening to Deep Thoughts About Stupid Shit, because pop culture is still culture, and shouldn't you know what's in your head? Today, I'll be sharing my deep thoughts about the 1993 classic Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas with my sister, Emily Guy Birkin, and with you. Let's dive in. Okay, Em, so the full title is in fact Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you know or remember about this film?
So I remember when it came out, I was probably 14.
It was 93.
So 93, so I was 14. I remember seeing it and really liking it. I remember that you really liked Sally and wanted to go as her for Halloween at some point. I don't know if you ever did.
I didn't.
And like, I thought that would be an awesome Halloween costume. I remember like details of it that I found like charming, like the fact that the mayor of Halloween Town has two faces.
Yeah.
And the way that Sally's like Dr. Frankenstein creator, I don't remember what he's called, but he would like
Finkelstein.
Finkelstein.
His name is Finkelstein.
Oh, okay. And he would lift his skull up and scratch his brain. Like I remember being delightfully creeped out by that.
Yeah.
And the some of the iconic scenes like that curl,
That like fiddlehead
curl
hill
yeah. that he walks down. And well, I just remember being really charmed by it. I do recall at some point being a little, I'm not sure what the word is, but recognizing what holidays were in the holiday wood kind of got me a little bit, because it was just like, I get it. But at the same time, like, why is St. Patrick's Day in here?
Yeah. I wanna mention that a little bit. Yeah.
And then the last thing, and this is the thing that like most strongly I associate with this, is my best friend had a blog, I think she still does, for years. And when she first had her eldest, who is now 19, she was writing about how he was like exploring the world. And in her head, she kept thinking he was like Jack Skellington going, "What's this? What's this?" And so anytime I see like a baby or a toddler, like just really entranced by the world, I Jack Skellington is singing in my head. And nice. I feel like, you know, that was not something I could get as a 14-year-old, because I liked kids, but I hadn't seen one up close and personal as he was or she was discovering the world. But I feel like that was something that they nailed, which is like that childlike wonder that an adult can have upon finding something so completely outside of their personal experience. So yeah. those are the majority of my thinks about this movie.
Cool.
So tell me, why are we discussing it today?
Well, a couple weeks ago, you were like, we should plan stuff for the holidays. Like, what should we do to talk about on Halloween? And I was like, yeah, Nightmare Before Christmas, of course.
Yeah.
So that's why we're doing it now, because it's Halloween.
And by the way, I keep calling it Nightmare Before Elm Street.
Yeah.
When we're
planning. Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's why now. This is one of the ones that's the furniture of my brain. For sure. So 93, I was a junior in high school, but I just loved it. I really loved it. And then I kind of forgot about it, you know, but then it really has become a cultural phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think all of those kind of cultural phenomenon are worthy of a deeper look. So wanted to give it a deep thoughts treatment in time for Halloween. So here we are. So some of the things I'm going to want to talk about, and I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to arrange this, so maybe we'll figure it out together. But I want to talk about gender because we always talk about gender. And I want to talk about like what message, like the big, like what is the moral of the story? Like what is it for this film? Because I think there are a couple potential and some are like more pleasant than others. So that's something that I want to talk about. I want to talk about tricksters and sort of the difference between kind of a benevolent-ish trickster in Jack and a malicious trickster in Oogie Boogie.
Oh, Oogie Boogie. Oh yeah.
And I want to talk about the place of this movie, like the look of it, and the aesthetic, because it really was new. And the ways in which, like, in many ways, kind of mainstream theatrical release, like Disney owns it and like didn't know what to do with it, and that's why it was initially a Touchstone and not a Disney release. So some of those things, and kind of its place in culture and how it has become completely embraced, even though it wasn't quite when it was first released. Not that it was panned, it was not panned at all, but it didn't have the kind of impact initially. It was like a $51 million take versus Aladdin the following year from Disney was like $217 million. So anyway,
some of that has, because it was so groundbreaking, it was the thing that you always get with creative media, where like they don't know how to market it. Right.
And Disney was a little afraid of it, I think. So, and the artistry of it too. I mean, I talk about the look of it, but this is a stop motion. Like, this is not a computer generated. This is like hundreds of clay puppets and 20 sound stages. Like, it's 2 years of work with hundreds of people. And which is the case for all animation. I don't want to suggest otherwise. And also, like, there's something in my mind deeply magical that Jack Skellington existed in 3D. So that's a piece of it as well. So we'll get to all those. Let me see if I can do a synopsis. I will do my best to be quick. It's not easy, as you know. We were just talking about a recent one with Jaws where you didn't finish your synopsis until we were like 40 minutes in. So we'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
I'll do my best. Okay. So we open with a little bit of narration where we're introduced to this place in the forest where, if you wonder where holidays come from, then take a look. It's all in rhyme. And there are these 6 trees with like kind of colored carvings on them facing each other of different holidays. And I agree with you. The 6 that are chosen are like, huh? Like total head scratcher in my mind. So Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, Independence Day, Valentine's Day, and St. Patrick's Day. What? Independence Day?
Well, in case Thanksgiving and the rest of it didn't make it clear that this is America.
Yeah, exactly. This is, so these are American holidays.
Well, because that is without Thanksgiving and Independence Day, you could argue that these are just Christian holidays.
Yeah. Agreed.
Which would be a thing. Like, that would be like, all right, this is the Christian wood.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. So we get this narration, we get these 6 trees, and we're going to learn about where holidays come from. And then the kind of jack-o'-lantern carving opens up as a door and we go in. So now we're in Halloween Town, and through the first of 10 or 11 Danny Elfman songs that are like Gilbert and Sullivan-esque, like that caliber. We learn all about Halloween and Halloween Town. It's their job to put on Halloween. And we got werewolves and we've got vampires and we've got creepy crawlies and ghosts and witches and like just goblins. And it's creepy delicious. And the overseer, the top guy at all of these things, is this king of the pumpkins. Actually, we don't know his name that yet in the beginning, but when we meet him, he is like Sleepy Hollow, jack-o'-lantern head and like suited body, and he is on fire. Literally, I'm like actual flames. I'm not using slang. He's on fire. He douses the flames in this like public fountain that has green water, and when he arises out of that, we meet Jack Skellington, as we all know him, as he's become this beloved figure, this like stick thin, well-dressed gentleman with a very expressive skull for a head. Okay, so he is completely beloved. Like everybody, like, you're the best. We love you. You're a witch's dream. Like they're all like chasing after him like paparazzi. And he's like, thank you, thank you. And he like keeps backing away. And he's clearly very uncomfortable. They get distracted by the mayor. He goes off. So unbeknownst to his subjects and followers, he is very unhappy. It's like, it's ennui. It's the same thing every year. And like, there's no joy in it anymore. And we get a song all about Jack's ennui. We meet Sally. She's a ragdoll, like humanoid, human-formed ragdoll who has like all of her. So there's a lot of stitches all over her. So we see her escape her quote unquote father and creator. It's sort of a Frankenstein's relationship, Dr. Finkelstein. We hear his name twice, and he's credited just as mad scientist, which is an interesting thing. He is in a motorized wheelchair and has like a duck bill with teeth, and also that skull cap that you mentioned that opens so we can see his brain. She is constantly, we learn that she repeatedly sort of poisons him, tricks him in order to get out and escape the lair so that she can, have some bodily autonomy. And he's always like, you're not ready for this. And anyway. Yeah. But Sally's amazing.
Sally's fantastic. Amazing. Yes.
In fact, I believe Sally got the raw end of the deal in this movie, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
We'll get to that. So Jack walks all night. Halloween Town, we see the next morning, they're freaking out because they don't know where Jack is, because the mayor's ready to start planning next year because they've only got 364 days. And Jack has found that place that we saw from the very, very beginning with the 6 holiday trees, and he gets sucked in to Christmas Town. So he's in Christmas Town doing the what's this about the snow and the whatever. And that landscape is very Dr. Seuss Grinch, the Grinch Who Stole Christmas kind of a feel. And he's just like super excited. Like, this is so different. It's so cool. It's like the injection of energy that his, ennui needed. So Halloween Town's freaking out. They don't know where Jack is. They've looked everywhere, and like everybody's talking about all the different places that they looked. And then all of a sudden he comes back on this snowmobile with this big giant sack full of stuff from Christmas Town with his ghost dog in tow, Zero.
I love Zero.
Zero's pretty awesome. And he's like super excited, and he says we need to have a town meeting immediately. So they have a meeting, and he's trying to tell the residents of Halloween Town how awesome Christmas Town is, and that they should like do Christmas, and they do not get it. Like, they just don't understand. And so he kind of puts things on hold, and he goes to Dr. Finkelstein because he wants to use the scientific method. He's like reading all the books, all the Christmas stories, and he's still just, there's something quintessential about Christmas that he cannot grasp. And so he decides he's going to use the scientific method to understand it. So we see him do all these like experiments on Christmas bulbs and on presents and bows and different things, trying to figure it out. Sally sends him a little gift basket that has she's made this cool, he opens a bottle, and like the vapor that comes out of the bottle like turns into a little butterfly. So she sends him a gift and then she runs away. She had, oh, I missed this. This feels important, actually. This time she escaped by just tossing herself from like a 4th story observatory and then stitching herself back together where she has fallen apart. Quite literally, with needle and thread, she like sews her leg back on, her arm back on. And that was the plan. After having dosed her father, quotes around that again, with some sleeping potion in his soup. And that was very tricky. He wouldn't eat it until she tasted it. So she uses this trick spoon that's like got holes in it. So he thinks that she's very clever. She's very clever. So Eureka, Jack gets it. He thinks, he understands, and he has decided Halloween Town is going to take over Christmas, and he is going to take over the role of Sandy Claus. That's what he calls Santa Claus. And so he is calling each of the residents and giving them all jobs to do to like recreate and improve the elements of Christmas. So there's like a trio of musicians that he plays like jingle bells on some actual sleigh bells and asks them to like improvise and use that melody. And he's got people, making toys, like vampires are making toys, and they make this like decoy duck that like has like teeth, and this bat doll. And I mean, it's all like creepified versions.
Mm-hmm.
He calls these 3 characters called Lock, Shock, and Barrel. And by the way, so they look like trick-or-treaters. There's a devil and like I don't know, like a goblin and then a witch. And actually one of the 2 male, the goblin or the devil, is Paul Rubens' voices.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So he gives them instructions. He wants them to go kidnap Santa Claus. Don't hurt him, but go get him. And don't involve that no good Oogie Boogie. And they say, sure thing, no problem. So they go off. Then he talks to Sally. He wants Sally she's so talented with needle and thread, she's going to make his Santa Claus costume. Well, meanwhile, Sally has had a vision. She's a medium of some kind. So she's had a vision. She was like plucking petals off of a thistle that like, he loves me, not kind of a thing. She wasn't saying those things, but she was plucking the petals kind of in that kind of a gesture.
She does have a crush on Jack.
Oh yes, very much so. That we know that when she does the butterfly vapor thing and then runs away. She also sings about him. Yeah. So she's admiring him from afar. So she's plucking the petals after she gives him the butterfly vapor bottle. And suddenly the stem turns into a Christmas tree and then it goes up in flames. So she's had this premonition that this is not going to go well. And she's trying to tell Jack, and he will not listen. He's just not listening. Okay, so we've seen all of that. Now we cut back over to Lock, Shock, and Barrel, and they're like, of course we're going to tell Oogie. Duh. So, and they do this like super creepy thing where they're tossing like weapons and stuff into this like clawfoot bathtub, which then the feet actually like move and it is their vehicle. And the songs, the way they're singing about Santa Claus, like they're going to get him and kick him in the head and lock him up for 90 years and see what makes him tick. And I mean, it's
not deliciously creepy. It's just creepy.
Uh-oh, Santa. Uh-oh. Says the good Jewish girl. Okay. So they go off. We know they're going in their creepy tub that walks to get Santa Claus, and they're going to do exactly what Jack asked them not to. So, and at some point, I think at that point we meet Oogie Boogie. So Oogie Boogie is a boogeyman. He is like a rough burlap bag with a face. And he's really into gambling. So all of his all of his paraphernalia, all of his stuff, he uses dice a lot. And there are one-armed bandits, like what is that called? Slot machines. And there's a roulette wheel, and there are cards. Like, so he's all about gambling. Okay. So Jack has gotten the Halloween town like super excited. Like they are like into it, and they've changed. They have like a countdown, like how many days to Halloween, and they've covered over Halloween, and it says Christmas. And so we see things counting down. We also cut over to Christmas town where we see them doing, you know, their thing, like getting ready for Christmas. So in Halloween town, Lock, Shock, and Barrel come back with something in a big black bag in the tub. We got him, Jack. And they open it up, and it's the Easter Bunny. And Jack's like, this is not him. You did the wrong thing. And the Easter Bunny comes out and like gets like super, super scared by one of the Halloween town residents and like dives back into the bag in the tub, like, and like just shivering. And Jack is like trying to apologize to him and sends Lock, Shock, and Barrel. They take him back and don't hurt him, right? And go get Sandy Claus. Okay, so now we're in, it's like 2 days till Christmas or something. We see Christmas town. Santa's talking to Mrs. Claus. He's reviewing his list again. Like there aren't even that many naughty kids. And then there's a knock at the door. Who could that be? It's Lock, Shock, and Barrel. They kidnap him. And he's like, you can't do this. You can't do this. Anyway, so they bring him back to Jack. Jack now has the Santa suit on. It's like weird. It's like, you know, hanging on this literal skeleton, right? And like a big beard on this expressive skull face. And he's like, something's missing. And then the kids come in with Santa, and he's like, oh, that's what's missing. And he takes the hat and puts the hat on. Meanwhile, Dr. Finkelstein has made these like ghastly skeletal flying reindeer, and they turned a coffin into a sleigh. So it's like the elements of Halloween like reconfigured into Christmas. Sally is like, this can't happen. This is going to be really, really bad. She's trying to save Jack from himself. So we know she's like a potions master. So she dumps stuff into that fountain that I mentioned in the beginning, and it causes this big fog. Like fog machine fog. And Jack is like, oh, we can't take off in this. We can't even see. And then Zero kind of is like, trying to get his attention. He's like, not now, Zero. And then he realizes Zero, much like Rudolph, has this big red nose. And so much like Rudolph, Zero has to go to the front of the team to light the way. So they take off anyway. So he goes into the real world. Jack goes into the real world as this like creepified Santa and is delivering the Christmas presents that Halloween Town made, and he thinks he's doing a good job. And meanwhile, we as the viewers get to see the results, where children and parents alike are like terrified and traumatized by these presents that he's leaving, like shrunken heads and like dolls that bite and, you know, things like that. So people are called, we cut to a scene in the real world still where people are calling the police. The military gets called in and actually shoot him down out of the sky. So Halloween Town was watching through this like witch's cauldron. They think he's dead. So at the same time, the Lock, Shock, and Barrel have delivered Santa Claus to Oogie Boogie, who is torturing him and like playing some sort of gambling game with Santa's life and like belittling him the whole time. Sally comes to try and rescue Santa. Very clever girl. She takes one of her legs off and like props it somewhere to like lure Oogie away while she is rescuing Santa, like removes her hands, which like logistically, how did she sew them back on then? But whatever.
With their teeth.
I guess. And so the hands are like untying Santa, and like she's actually doing a great job, but then Oogie realizes what's happening and actually captures her too. And she's like, Jack will stop you. And then the announcement that Jack has died. So Oogie's like all the more emboldened. Cut back to the real world. He hasn't died. He's fallen into a cemetery and was caught by the like open arms of an angel grave statue. What is that called? Tombstone. And sings this other song about like not getting it, realizing he didn't get Christmas, but now he's seeing what he actually did have in Halloween Town, and I hope it's not too late. So he goes back to Halloween Town. He rescues Sally and Santa. Santa's like, he's making apologies to Santa. Jack is making apologies to Santa. Santa's like, you are insane. You should listen to her. She's the only one with any kind of brains here. Speaking about Sally. Santa and Sally both assure Jack that it's not too late. Santa goes and saves Christmas. And then like just like the final moment as a I don't know, gesture of goodwill, Santa flies over Halloween Town and makes it snow and says Happy Halloween, and Jack replies Merry Christmas to Santa, and it's snowing. And so that's sort of what's this moment that we saw much earlier, like the rest of Halloween Town gets. Sally wanders off kind of sad back to that Fiddlehead hill that we saw at the beginning that you and I mentioned earlier, and I didn't mention in the synopsis, but y'all, there's a Fiddlehead hill with the moon, the full moon, always directly behind it. And Jack has realized that Sally has always been looking out for him and has feelings for him, and he returns them. And so we have a final song between them where they sing that they were made for each other. One piece that I missed in the synopsis that I do want to go back and name: when Jack saves Sally and Santa, he and Oogie have a fight of, Halloween monsters. And Jack wins ultimately by pulling a thread and unraveling the seams of this burlap sack. And what's inside is just a pile of bugs that then kind of like the pile disintegrates, like the bugs all fall and they're, killed in the machinery of the roulette wheel. Santa steps on one. It's gross, but that feels like an important moment of symbolism.
That's another moment that really stuck with me. Like the visual of that has stayed with me for years.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the basic plot. A couple of like, in addition to Paul Rubens, like Catherine O'Hara is Sally.
She's amazing.
Yeah, who we just talked about recently when we talked about Beetlejuice. So
another Tim Burton film.
Another Tim Burton property. And that's actually another thing I want to name. Tim Burton had very little to do with the actual production of this film. So it was his idea. He had written this poem that he had always kind of wanted to do something with, and was actually working at Disney when he wrote it. And so Disney had the intellectual property rights for this poem. And it finally was able to get a green light for this stop motion. And that was specific. He wanted stop motion. He did not want traditional animation. And so he was a producer, and he was like the original idea guy. But Henry Selick was the director on this, and Burton was present for like maybe 2 weeks of the 2 years of production. So this is not a Tim Burton, he did not lovingly craft this in the way that he did some of the other films that bear his name, which is in part, I think, why it's called Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas. Because he wasn't actually involved in the production, and they wanted to trade at least a little on his name. So poor Henry Selick, is the, winning trivia answer. Like always. Right? Because like who directed Nightmare Before Christmas? Like we all know the answer is Tim Burton. It wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a little like factoid before we get started. So
you were naming some of the voice actors.
Oh, right. Chris Sarandon is the speaking voice of Jack, but Danny Elfman himself sings Jack, which is worth noting. William Hickey is Dr. Finkelstein. I don't know him.
I know the name. I'm sure I would recognize his face, but
yeah. And then Glenn Shaddix is the mayor.
Oh,
you know Glenn Shaddix?
Yes, he played Otho in Beetlejuice.
Oh, okay, cool. Ken Page is Oogie Boogie.
I don't think I know that actor.
Yeah, I don't know the name either. And then, so Ed Ivory is Santa Claus and also does the initial narration when we see the Grove in the first place. Patrick Stewart recorded narration, which is on the soundtrack, but is not in the theatrical release movie. So those are some of the voice talents.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I want to start with gender. I'm going to start with gender. I'll start with Bechdel because it's easy. Nope. Doesn't pass.
Is there? Oh, one of the Lock, Shock, and Barrel. One of them is female.
I believe it's Shock.
But she and Sally don't talk to each other.
They do not talk to each other. Mrs. Claus has a name besides Mrs. Claus. Santa refers to her by her first name. I don't remember what it is at the moment, but we don't even see her. I mean, she's just like background wifey. There are some witches who are present as female. There's one of the residents of Halloween Town is like a mom and her son who has like a leash on.
Oh yes. I remember.
Like, the son reads like Pugsley Addams kind of, and the mom is like kind of, I don't know, just fat and creepy. So yeah, it definitely does not pass Bechdel. And I want to talk about Sally because I feel like Sally as a character is one of those moments that we have talked about a lot on Deep Thoughts where our pop culture gave with one hand and took with the other. Sally is amazing in terms of how much agency she is given, right? Like, because her circumstances don't give her agency. She friggin' takes it over and over and over again, and Dr. Finkelstein, the mad scientist, like thinks like she comes back at one point and he says, I figured you'd come back, like as if she needs him, but he's got her arm. She just came back to claim her arm, not because she wants or needs or, like it's not through any kind of affection or dependency. She's just getting her arm back, like literally. And the bravery with which she like just dives off of that like observation tower and then just sews herself back up when she gets to the bottom. Even the act of sewing back up, the skill with a needle, which we see over and over again, which she uses to repair herself.
Holy cow, I friggin' love that analogy.
She uses her life skills to repair herself. Thank you, Henry Selick. And
here's the take with the other.
And her entire purpose in using her agency is Jack. She thinks she's in love with him. And, she's trying to protect him. And she's trying to please him. And she seems to not realize what a fucking badass she is unless he's looking.
And
fuck you, Henry Selick.
So one thing I'm thinking about is we've talked about this before, like with Who Framed Roger Rabbit. What if this story were told from Sally's point of view?
Yeah.
What that might do And it wouldn't change the fact that she's doing everything for Jack, but it would make it clearer that like she is the protagonist. She is the one trying to do the right thing and not ignoring all of the signs that this is a bad idea.
Yeah, although if the measure of a protagonist is whether or not they change, Jack is the protagonist.
Jack is the protagonist, yes. Yeah, I'll give you that. It would be interesting to see, because like she's kind of a Cassandra character. Cassandra.
Totally, yes, she is.
And so to see a story from that point of view, rather than it being like the dramatic irony of we all know that she's correct,
right?
And nobody else does.
So just a reminder to our listeners, Cassandra is the character from Greek myth who saw the future coming and kept telling people.
Well, she was cursed. She was blessed and cursed at the same time. She was blessed to see the future and cursed with the fact that no one would ever believe her.
Right. So, right. She totally is. And yeah. I'm actually just right now thinking about Alien and like Ripley as a Cassandra. And it is from her POV, and she's the only one who lives. Anyway, we'll do Alien one day.
Yeah.
We've referenced it enough now.
Well, the fact that she doesn't change, you know what? I'm like, that is going to stick with me. The fact that Sally does not change from beginning to end, other than she is open with Jack about her feelings rather than keeping them to herself at the beginning.
But he seeks her out in order for that to happen.
Yeah.
She's like standing in the snow on that hill. And he's like, my dear friend, if I may.
Oh.
Yeah.
Damn you, Henry Selick.
She doesn't change. Yeah. So while we're talking about gender, I read an interesting take that I will link to in the show notes, where someone said, if you replaced scary, so in Halloween Town, scary is the epitome of existence. Mm-hmm. That's what we're all aiming for. And Jack wins because he's the scariest. But he doesn't even really want it. It's not kind of where he is. Now he will put on super scary, like at one point to intimidate Lock, Shock, and Barrel, he like puts on a super scary face. So he can do it. Mm-hmm. And he does it with Oogie Boogie. Mm-hmm. But you get the feeling that it's not actually kind of his like default comfortable state. Mm-hmm. So this commentator that I read said, what if this is a commentary on like masculinity? Replace scary with manly. Mm. And like go through, like just iterate it through, where they're all like manliness is like the epitome of good. Manly. And like Jack can do it, but he doesn't love it. It's not really. And then and Oogie Boogie in particular, talk about it toxic scarulity.
Do I need to lend you my my poetic license?
Yes, totally. Toxic scariness, because he mocks Jack for not being scary enough. He mocks Santa, like, which actually makes sense. If scariness is like the epitome, if manliness is the epitome, and now this guy who's supposed to be the leader of this other whole realm, and he's like this mushy, wearing a dress, like not at all scary. Like he kind of belittles Santa in that way. And so you sort of see too the use of the masculinity or scariness, like with Oogie Boogie, again, is like it's harmful, hurtful to
toxic,
others.
one might say.
One might call it toxic to others, right? And also completely empty once one takes the kind of facade off. I thought that was a really interesting,
that is fascinating
potential take on this, thinking about gender.
Well, and in particular, because you were saying that, if scary is the ultimate, the word I was thinking of to describe Santa is kindly. Mm-hmm. And so that is as if Jack is saying there's another way to be a man. and blundering his way through trying to be more like that,
Right.
trying to embody the kindness of that kind of masculinity.
Right. It also makes sense that all the other residents of Halloween Town like are making these toys in this scary way because that's the epitome of existence. So of course the like duck on wheels is a scary duck.
Well, and it fits with the way that we see toxic masculinity play out in our world. In that, like, no, I am being kind. I'm giving her a compliment.
Right. But she'd be prettier if she smiled more. Why is that not a good thing?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that was one like potential like the moral of the story is that I thought was really interesting. I thought was really interesting. Another one that I this isn't fully formed, and so I want to kind of like play with it with you. So like on the, I think amoral could be stay in your lane. And in fact, I read one person, which I won't link to because I didn't care for it, who was like, be an expert. Jack of all trades are no good. Why do you think the guy's name is Jack? No, I reject that. I reject that stay in your lane is ultimately the moral of this story. So, and could it be a parable about cultural appropriation? Right? So Jack was engaging in cultural appreciation in what's this? Right? Like he was getting excited about these things that were new to him. His mistake was not enjoying Christmas Town. His mistake was thinking he could do Sandy Claus better than Sandy Claus himself.
Well, it's very mediocre white man type type response.
Like, let's improve this. I can improve this. Yeah. Like that. So like, and that parable feels much more useful to me than just plain stay in your lane.
Yeah. Well,
Like-
and even the things that were exciting Jack about Christmas Town were things that he could bring to Halloween Town. So, for instance, gift giving could become part of Halloween. And they'd be scary gifts because that's what they do, but they're taking something. So there's a way to have a cultural exchange that is not appropriation, that is not harmful to the people you're borrowing from or appreciating.
Well, they even show that in the scene with the snow, right? Like we see like a creature from the Black Lagoon and I want to say a werewolf making snow angels.
Yes.
Right. And so like playing with the snow, having a snowball fight was a way that they had cultural appreciation of what was native to Christmas Town in Halloween Town that did no harm to the kids in the real world, nor to anyone involved, did no harm. So that felt like a, you know, something that I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. All right. I can hold that. I can take that. And even the ways in which the cultural appreciation re-energized Jack's ideas for how to kind of live in his cultural milieu.
Well, it's a really good metaphor for creativity.
Yeah.
How when you are a creative person for, you know, creating whatever, there will be a time where you feel like you've done it all before. And so immersing yourself in something completely different from what you normally do is a great way to re-energize yourself for what you do.
Yeah. So that was cool. So tricksters. Let me move on to tricksters. The foil, I don't know if that's the right word, but rivalry, I guess, between Oogie Boogie, the boogeyman, and Jack Skellington, the Pumpkin King. They're both tricksters, right? But Oogie Boogie is the villain of this film. And so it's not his trickster status that makes him the villain, right? There's a malice and a meanness to Oogie Boogie that Jack simply doesn't have. And I think that's worth noting. And it's interesting to me that one of the ways that our movie makers conveyed this toxicness, whether or not we're talking about an allegory with masculinity of Oogie Boogie, is the gambling. And in particular, unfair gambling. He says the dice are weighted because that's more fun for him. We watch him. He throws dice and gets a result he doesn't like, so he shakes the table to get one that he does like, when Santa and Sally are both tied up in, I don't understand what game he was playing, but something with their lives at stake. And he employs cards and the slot machines and the roulette wheel as weapons against Jack, which Jack just like deftly avoids, in sort of some like very long-limbed skeleton martial arts dance routine thing. Which I don't know what to do with that symbolism, honestly, of the long-limbed dancing martial artist trickster skeleton outwitting the boogeyman bugs in a sack gambler trickster. Not sure what to do with that.
Sometimes a long-lived martial arts dancing skeleton is just a cigar.
Yeah, I guess so. But I do think that there is a lesson in there about intention and tricks that feels like appropriate in a kid's movie or a young people's movie.
The thing that this is bringing up for me is, to Christmastown, Jack Skellington is a villain.
Yeah.
But he is doing these things, and they're terrible things, but in good faith. Like, it is a good faith attempt to do something that he's just not built for.
He's not qualified for.
He's not qualified for. And Oogie Boogie and Lock, Shock, and Barrel are acting in bad faith at all times.
Yeah.
And that's something that the last few years I've been grappling with. Like, it can be, when you are dealing with someone who is acting in bad faith, there is no meeting them on common ground, because they don't do it. They refuse to accept common ground.
Right.
And the only thing you can do is destroy them. Like, I'm saying that in terms of this, but in our political arena, when you are dealing with people who are consistently acting in bad faith and refusing to like speak truth or accept rules, it's really difficult to know how to respond to them. And we're not all, dancing martial arts
skeleton tricksters,
right? Because you really are trying to work around these gambling weapons, basically, that are weighted against you.
Yeah.
So I think that's it's an interesting thing to put in a kid's movie, because it's not the sort of thing you think of teaching kids.
Yeah.
It's definitely not something I understood until I was an adult, the difficulty of dealing with people who act in bad faith.
Yeah.
Even though this was an example I saw as a 14-year-old, but
one of hundreds of things that are furniture in your brain. Yeah. Yeah. So that was an interesting thing that I wanted to name. And I'm going to close out my deep thoughts I wanted to bring with two sort of visual moments, symbols. So the first is Dr. Finkelstein. And so he decides to make a new bride I guess. I don't know what to call that, because Sally's ungrateful and keeps drugging him. And what he makes is like another version of himself, like so much so that he opens that skull and like takes half his brain and sticks it in the new creature, and is like, the conversations we will have. You know, like, and we see her briefly at the end, and she's, you know, like a carbon copy of him. And like the visual imagery of that, of like not being happy until I have a carbon copy of myself, just really sat with me, from this person who we saw was so controlling and paternalistic and just like gross. The fact that they gave him a Jewish sounding name, like, I don't even want to touch, so I'm just naming it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go any deeper than that. Like,
Yeah.
ouch. I wish that hadn't been the case.
Yeah.
And also Frankenstein, the Stein, anytime you put a Stein after something, it's going to sound sort of Jewish. And so like, okay. I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with it.
The idea that, I mean, because there are so many parents who require their children to be miniature versions of themselves, or to do the things that they were unable to do, and like, you know, they shape them and push them, and it calls to mind, like, what are the Sallys of the world who have parents like that to do, other than, I mean, like, this is, we were talking about this in The Little Mermaid. Sally is playing out a very common story of abused young women who they leave their controlling homes and think a romance is the way to escape.
Yeah, but that, I mean, that's part of why it's so Sally's so frustrating. Like, Ariel didn't see a means of escape without the Sea Witch and the legs and Eric, right? Sally literally escapes without. Literally.
Consistently, over and over again.
Yeah, frustrating.
Yeah.
So,
and she's so capable.
Yeah. And they make that very clear how capable she is. So that's, yeah. And so the idea, but that visual image of like the child who is also a partner, who is also a carbon copy of himself, like, there's a lot in there that I think could bear unpacking in like a whole nother episode potentially, which I don't really want to do.
It makes it clear just how ugly and toxic it is for parents to have these expectations for their kids.
Yeah. So, and then the last visual image that I want to name is that in the cemetery, after he's been shot down, after Jack has been shot down, and he lands on that angel tombstone statue, there's like a very extended scene where he's sitting on, I don't know, like Angel's like holding a book or something, and he's like sort of sitting on it. And so we end up with, he has wings, or he's like in the embrace. Like, there's this extended time visually where Jack is melding with or being embraced by an angel. And as I'm rewatching this, you know, just yesterday to prepare for today, I'm like, what the hell does this mean? I'm like, I watch it and I backed it up a little bit, and like the Santa suit is in tatters, so it's kind of like almost like feathers, and I'm like, clearly this is intentional, and I feel like there's something I'm supposed to be getting, and I'm not sure what it is. But I will say, like, I just, like, washing over me, forgiveness is what I was getting, which felt appropriate for this sort of almost like resurrection, because he's been shot down, and Halloween Town thinks he's dead. So there's a resurrection of sorts with him in the angel's arms. There's also his like realization of the mistake and wanting to repair it. So I do think that there is some forgiveness. I don't know what to make of there's at least a shot, more than a frame, where he's sitting such that the angel's wings are his, right? Like his head in front of his, like, you know, skull expressive skull head in front of the angel's head, and we're looking at it straight on, so that the wings of the angel statue are Jack's wings. And I don't know what to make of that. Like, it's beautiful. It's beautiful and creepy. And maybe that's all there is. Sometimes a creepy angel skeleton melding is just a cigar, as you say. But it was notable for me in the rewatch. That was like, this feels like a thing. Like, you know how sometimes you're writing and there's like a moment that you're like, I gotta get here. I need to build around to get here. It felt like one of those moments. So I wanted to like name it in our time.
The thing that's bringing up for me is, so we talked about how the holidays, like all but two of them are originally Christian. Yeah. Although Halloween is appropriated, Samhain, from the like Druidic pagan.
Oh, paganism.
Yeah. As is Christmas, as it's celebrated in
with the trees,
Christmas
and stuff.
Town and trees.
Right. And in Eastertown, like what we see of Eastertown is an egg on the tree and the Easter bunny. Yeah. So for sure, the pagan symbols.
Yeah. So, but the fact that they're using like this Christian symbol, and you use the word resurrection. Yeah. It's fascinating. Now, one of the things something that I've been thinking about is I appreciate the story as a story. I also like kind of bristle a little at like, this is where holidays come from. Because it's like, no. No. And in part because holidays change and adapt over time. You know, we make them. We make the traditions. We change the traditions. And in the 30 years since this film came out, Jack Skellington has become part of the Halloween tradition.
And Christmas.
And Christmas. Which it did not exist.
Right.
40 years ago. Right. And the I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent. No. So, who, me? So later this week, while we're recording this, it is just before Sukkot. I'm going to be going to my son's 5th grade classroom and introducing Sukkot to them. Now, I'm doing that because every single year I'm asked to come in and talk about Hanukkah, which drives me nuts. Because Hanukkah is a big deal just because of its proximity to Christmas. So it, for a lot of Gentiles, is like, oh, that's the important one. It's the Jewish Christmas. And I've tried very hard to become more okay with the fact that Hanukkah, like every other holiday, is changing over time because of outside forces. In the same way, many other traditions in Judaism have changed over time because of both outside and inside forces, you know, within the community and from outside of the community. And so this story kind of presents itself as if holidays are unchanging, as if like there is a way that Halloween goes, there's a way that Christmas goes.
I disagree. Because he says he has new ideas for next year. I actually think the problem is that it implies that it's somehow outside of our hands as those of us who observe. Yeah. I don't disagree with you that there's a problem in the kind of cosmology of where the holidays come from, but I don't think it's that it's static.
Well, the reason why I say static is because the way Halloween is presented to us is the way that we celebrate Halloween now. You know, we trick or treat. We do scary, like we spooky things. But that's not how Halloween always was.
Well, exactly.
Same thing with Christmas.
But Jack's doing it now.
Yeah.
So maybe, 300 years ago, Jack did it differently. Like, I think that the changeableness of it is not the issue. It's the externalness of it.
It's partially because like Christmastown's trees has a tree, right?
Yeah.
And Halloween Town's tree has a jack-o'-lantern.
Yeah.
Those are not original to these holidays.
Yeah, I mean, the Grove. I mean, come on. Thanksgiving, Independence Day.
And that's my issue.
The trees are only 200 years old.
I wonder if there's a grove in Europe, and there's maybe there's one with like the more secular Muslim holidays in the Middle East.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if do holidays have figureheads in other traditions.
Yeah. I don't know. All right. I'm going to actually wrap us up because we've been running long recently. I'm going to try and keep us back. Okay. If I can try and recap the highlights of what we talked about. This film, Nightmare Before Christmas, was groundbreaking in terms of its aesthetic. So much so that though it has become iconic and like completely integrated into how Americans think about both Halloween and Christmas, we didn't quite know what to do with it when it was first released in 93. And Disney in particular didn't know what to do with it, releasing it under the Touchstone label instead of Disney, even though originally it was envisioned as a Disney film. Like, they were scared of it. It doesn't pass Bechdel. So there, as a reminder, the Bechdel test from Alison Bechdel: are there at least two female characters? Do they both have names? Do they talk to one another about something other than a boy or a man? The answer is no. There are more than two female characters, and that's as far as we get on the Bechdel test. Other gender things. Sally is amazing. She gives with one hand and takes with the other, which she can take off and sew back on. So with the hand that
with
she
her
gives,
teeth,
with her teeth, with the hand that the giving hand, we have this amazing woman who claims agency, who takes care of herself, whose skill she uses to repair herself. Holy cow, is that a powerful metaphor? And then she is taken right away because she does all of those things in order to pursue a man.
We don't know anything else about what she wants from her life, or who she wants to be, or anything.
Nope. No. So, yet another example of a piece of media in terms of gender representation, giving with one hand and taking with the other. One potential kind of interesting parable baked in here is about toxic masculinity. If we replace scary with manly, sort of the messages that we get about the emptiness of displays of like extreme masculinity in the person of Oogie Boogie, who, when we remove his mask, is literally just a pile of bugs with nothing to hold them together. That felt like a really interesting parable to me. Another potential parable that this movie might be sharing with us is the dangers of cultural appropriation versus appreciation. It's appreciation when Jack is like, wow, this is so cool. It's appropriation when he says, I can do it better, even though I just learned about it yesterday. Let me think. What else we got? I spent some time just like doing the shrug emoji about the Oogie Boogie versus Jack, and the kind of like the rivalry and the fight, the literal fight between them, which is visually really fascinating and interesting, with lots of references to gambling on the Oogie Boogie side, and just deft, easy movement that looks like a martial artist or a dancer or both. Still shrug emoji. I also named the visual image of Jack after having been shot out of the sky sitting on this angel, and sort of what does that mean? The words I used, you named explicitly, were very Christian, about forgiveness and resurrection, and uses this Christian image of an angel. I am sure I'm forgetting something. What I forget?
Just the way that I saw the difference between Oogie Boogie and Jack as the difference between someone acting in bad faith and someone acting in good faith, and how difficult it is to navigate someone who acts in bad faith.
Right. And in that vein, too, I think that the movie makers specifically gave us two examples of tricksters, one with malice behind it and one without. So Oogie Boogie, the boogeyman, is a malicious trickster, and he is the villain. Jack is a benevolent trickster or a neutral trickster, potentially. He is the hero. We did spend some time talking about, too, he is in fact the protagonist because his character changes. We see change in his character. And so though Sally is amazing and wonderful, I don't think we could argue that she's the protagonist if some sort of character arc that involves change is quintessential to being a protagonist. Sally doesn't seem to have that. The last thing I'll note is the actual, two things. Two of the things that I think have made this iconic are the actual way in which this thing was made, the stop motion animation. Like, there is a literal 3-dimensional Jack Skellington, lots of them actually, out there. And at least one of them still exists in Henry Selick's living room, I think, under a glass case. And that's just neat. That's just cool. And the other is Danny Elfman's score, which I think I read some an interview with some of the folks who made it, and they were worried it would actually be sort of put people off because most of the film is told through music, but I actually think is part of what made the movie so iconic and so long lasting. The music really slaps. Sorry, kid, that I said that out loud. So
yeah, if you know what that means, then it's no longer
I know, right?
It's no longer something that's cool to say.
Not cool. Yeah. So anyway, that's what I got. So thank you for letting me share my deep thoughts just in time for Halloween of The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Next week, actually, usually we take turns, but you are going to present again next week.
Yeah, a little pattern interrupt. So next week, I am going to bring my deep thoughts about The Birdcage with Robin Williams and Nathan Lane.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that'll be fun.
Awesome. Well, I'll see you then.
All right, see you then.
Do you like stickers? Sure, we all do. If you head over to guygirlsmedia.com/sign up and share your address with us, we'll send you a sticker. It really is that easy. But don't wait, there's a limited quantity. Thanks for listening. Our theme music is Professor Umlaut by Kevin MacLeod from Incompetech.com. Find full music credits in the show notes. Until next time, remember, pop culture is still culture. And shouldn't you know what's in your head?